Hey everybody, welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. We are at episode 669. This is being recorded on Wednesday, March 23, 2022. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
That's right, PC Per's Iron Man for the last 2 years or so. Brett is not with us tonight. He's traveling for
working.
Work. Yeah, supposedly. I don't know what that really means, but he somehow couldn't find it in his schedule to join us tonight. Something about time zones. It's complicated. Anyway, we're gonna make do. Kent is filling in. I've shifted the squares around, which is probably gonna be confusing to people, but we're just gonna go with it. Unless Brett joins us later, in which case I'll switch to some awkward like 5-up view, and we'll see what happens. I will cover Patreon. We have a couple new people since last week. I'll shout out to Brian because he's still on our list of new people. So thank you, Brian, again. MLB has joined the PC Per community. Thank you. And speaking of MLB, there is actually going to be a season this year. I don't know if that's your namesake or if those are your initials. What's going on? I was excited about the lockout ending. But Shampoo Time has a special request. Apparently they're from Australia. They wanted me to say, or us to say, good day from Australia in the worst Aussie accent you can. His words.
That was pretty bad, so.
Good day! I could have read this entire segment in that voice. I don't really know how to do an Australian accent, and if I attempt to, it probably sounds like a New Zealand accent. I think Americans are just bad at it. But anyone who wants to take a stab at it. Good day from Australia! I'm from Adelaide. We've reached the point in our show where we go to Laramie, Wyoming, so that Josh can talk about food. Take it away.
I could talk about what?
Food.
Dead cows.
Of course, last week was, and I missed it, on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. They featured Born in a Barn. And apparently they had the popper and some barn shows, which are they're handmade potato chips in kind of a nachos type thing. But anyway, you really have to try it. It's quite good. And so I tried calling them today to make an order, and nobody ever answered. And so I had to go to the other place, Mr. Bill's. And when I went up there, I kept expecting to hear the, oh no, but no, it was not there. But anyway, I got their spicy guac burger again, and it was even better than last time. I mean, those fresh cut jalapenos. I mean, that green just pops out at you. And the guac is good, and it's got bacon, onions, a little bit of lettuce. It's just a fantastic, nicely prepared, clean burger, and a good bun, and good old slab of meat. So, yeah, Born in a Barn. Sorry, I would have. Maybe they're just slammed now after being on that show, but who knows?
GTC is going on, and of course, NVIDIA had a lot to say. AMD announcements. We have all of that stuff on our list. Let's go over some of the NVIDIA stuff, shall we? Hopper. It's the new architecture. And look at virtual Jensen here.
Does he have a bottom?
I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah,
to say
he
from this
walks.
picture. Oh, okay.
Okay.
He walks around.
It was just too good not to grab.
So, man, there's so much stuff. But essentially, we have a new architecture. There's a new, data center accelerator. A massive, massive chip. The H100 is 80 billion transistors.
It's like 814 millimeter square. It's large.
Yeah.
Approaching reticle limit, obviously, at that
Yeah.
size.
Yeah. But you know what? Somehow they are able to not only yield those, but get the bins that they want. And I think that is a tremendous amount of engineering to be able to do that, both on the design side and the manufacturing side. I mean, they are kind of printing their own money there, in that these chips and the resulting products they go into are very, very expensive. Like easily, They sold that cube a while back for like $800,000, and so these things are easily $12,000-$15,000 a piece just for one of those chips, and they are fast enough and have enough of a work performance that it is worth it for a lot of these companies where time is of the essence, and being able to crunch that many numbers makes it worth every penny. And as things like a 600 watt product, which you got to have not only a lot of cooling, but pretty hefty bit in there. And what is it? Comes with they're bundling with the Grace processor. It's a ARM derived CPU, and it's got specific GPU to GPU connectivity. So yeah, it's insane. The Grace CPU super chip, 144 cores, 1 terabyte per second memory.
That's more than Apple. Good gracious.
Look at all those chips surrounding those damn things. And they got, 2 of those sitting together. I mean, it's just insane, the amount of compute. It's nuts what they're doing. I mean, they went after ARM hard. They got the smackdown until they finally couldn't really, obviously afford it. But, not afford it, but, government smacked it down and they couldn't go through with it. And still doesn't mean they're not going to use their products. And so they're making these massive chips on ARM technology. And Hopper H100 is just a massive, massive compute. And, it's leading into what we're going to see this fall or late summer. But I'm guessing September, October timeframe, right in between Q3, Q4. Yeah, we'll find more out about it as time goes on. I'm not sure exactly when these chips will be available, but looks like, late summer probably for a lot of this stuff. They're staying at the forefront of general compute, and we're talking CPUs and GPUs. And there's a reason why they're making how much now a quarter?
Oh,
7 billion? 6 billion a quarter? 7 billion? Yeah. They're selling a lot of products. But the good thing is, they did announce, or somebody did, that they're lowering the price on their GPU bundles, which typically they bundle in GPUs and the associated memory with it. And they're lowering the prices on those, and that's going to pass on to the add-in board partners and then eventually consumers. So not only are we starting to see products available, but they're going to see more significant price cuts in the future. So I'd say by June, you will have the pick of whatever card you want at pretty reasonable prices, or at least close to what we consider MSRP.
Now, the weird one about GTC was that they were talking about CU Quantum. So that they're claiming that you'll be able to simulate a quantum computer on this new A100 or say H100. And so that they're very, very different beasts. And so NVIDIA does have one, the NVQ++. Like they actually do have a quantum computer. So, I mean, perhaps it's interfacing with it in some way or something, but it just Serve the Home sort of caught that and said, this sounds very interesting, but how do you do this exactly? So I'm kind of curious to see if we're going to need more information on that.
You leverage the power.
Yeah,
of the
but it's only like 1/60th the performance of a quantum computer. So it covers all states, but at a much slower rate.
Eventually,
I can do the work of a quantum computer on my Pentium 100. It just will take me several decades.
It's the equivalent of like a 1X burner.
Yeah, it'll get the job done eventually, unless you lose power. Have to start over.
But of course, everything I'm hearing, quantum computers are kind of like the Kenwood, 7 laser.
Oh, man. What was that like?
They don't quite
60X,
work
80X?
as advertised.
Yeah, but they don't quite work the way you want them to.
Look, just more lasers burning more tracks at the same time.
Some kind of buffer. to kind of make sure everything comes in order eventually.
Let's pause here for a word from our first podcast sponsor this week.
Hey, have you heard of Kolide yet? Kolide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, or Windows devices right inside Slack. And if you're like many organizations, you know you can reach your employees on Slack. Kolide is perfect for organizations that care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to get there by locking down devices to the point where they become unusable. Instead of frustrating your employees, Kolide educates them about security and device management while directing them to fix important issues. Visit kolide.com/PCPer to check this out and sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/PCPer. Use your email and get a free Kolide gift bundle after trial activation. At Kolide, we know that end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resource, and they're key to solving the most challenging to fix security issues, including instructing developers to set passphrases on unencrypted SSH keys, finding plain text two-factor backup codes, and teaching end users how to store them securely, and convincing employees to uninstall those evil browser extensions that may even sell their browser history. These are just some of the many use cases not solved by locking down devices. You can try Kolide with all of its features on an unlimited number of devices for free for 14 days with no credit card required. Try it out at kolide.com/PCPer. That's KOLIDE.com/PCPer.
We're back, and we have to talk about AMD because AMD was at GTC as well, and they were talking about, we'd previously gotten news on the spring graphics update. So I guess we should talk about that first if we're going chronologically, because announced back on the 17th was FSR 2.0, which is coming soon. It wasn't being released immediately, but Radeon Super Resolution was finally being released, and we heard about that back in December. Now it's out. So RSR, but FSR is not going to be available until Q2. And of course, here's the ever helpful still image to show you the difference in quality of a moving image with various scaling technologies. Very helpfully, there is a chart, because I know that these two sound similar, FSR, RSR, Radeon Super Resolution versus Fidelity FX Super Resolution. One is in driver, that's Radeon Super Resolution, and one is in game. So RSR will work with anything because it's in driver. And for Fidelity FX, you need games to support it. And basically the platform support is going to be the other big thing. So you need Radeon RX 5000 series graphics or newer, so RDNA with RSR. And with Fidelity FX, you can use AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, or whatever, as long as it's game level support. So I like how they list under quality good for RSR and better than RSR for FSR. So you want the FSR, but if they don't support it in your game, then you can at least fall back to the RSR. So it's a little confusing that they have two separate technologies, but you know what? There's a lot of support out there, obviously. And speaking of support, this was a sort of a related thing here. Out of GTC has come a tweet from the Radeon account. I saw this earlier, that Fidelity FX Super Resolution will be fully supported on Xbox. So apparently it's very easy to implement and will be available on what has been.
I don't know about easy to implement, but when you've got a when you got a closed environment like Xbox, it's probably easier to do than on the PC and with the games for it. So, yeah, dev kits, gotta love them.
Microsoft has been really open about trying to make the Xbox a PC in a way, as far as gaming goes.
I tell you, it's one of the best media players out there.
Yeah,
that's 99% of what I use my new Xbox for is HDR, 4K video, 4K Blu-ray, streaming constantly. It's and the apps are surprisingly good for it. I don't know how we've gotten off on being nice to Xbox, but
hey, look, yeah. It's a PC. It's a PC.
It's all based on Ryzen and RDNA 2.
Exactly. It's x86, baby.
And interestingly, during the depths of the darkness that was the silicon shortage, while Xboxes were still hard to get, they were not as hard to get as PS5s.
True.
Which oddly enough made people want PS5s even more, but people could get Xboxes a little more readily than they could get PS5s. And a lot of people ended up with Xboxes. And when they couldn't build a gaming computer. And it's interesting because just the graphics card shortage almost shot PC gaming in the foot, because people were ticked that they couldn't build their new gaming PC. And so they went back to consoles for the first time for a lot of people in years.
Let's move on to more GTC stuff, of course, from AMD. Let's look at their Super Resolution 2.0 preview featuring Deathloop, which we'd seen still images for, but now you can see it in motion. Or actually, we're just watching slides. We're watching slides, text that's like slowly expanding, a still image.
So is this with
Somebody
FSR on
talking.
or no?
Yeah, apparently this is with FSR on. Can I advance? Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Actual gameplay. We're looking at 1.0 versus 2.0 versus native 4K.
That is so unhelpful.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you
found
actually saw it in 4K, you know,
Right.
on your screen, you'd notice the
Without
difference.
YouTube compression, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Someone put up pictures that you can slide through.
Yeah, that's what we need. So it's
But of course, on our stream, you're not going to notice a difference.
no. Go to AMD's community page. There's a blog post today, 9 hours ago, called
There
Fidelity
you go.
FX Super Resolution 2.0 GTC 2022 announcements, and you can look at the video there. It's a YouTube video though. It's just embedded. But here's something interesting. They have the chart that shows the scale factors, so input and output resolutions with FSR 2.0 in the different quality modes, which are quality, balance, and performance. So you have the quality mode, which is a scale factor of 1.5x per dimension for a 2.25x area scale, and 67% screen resolution is your output. So if you input 1280 by 720, the output is 1920 by 1080, for example, which means an output of 4K is actually just 2560 by 1440. And that's the quality mode. And if you go all the way down to performance mode, it is 2x. So you're literally doing one half. Internal resolution, so 1920 by 1080 internal gets output as 4K, or really UHD, 3840 by 2160. The support for Fidelity FX Super Resolution is not limited the way that RSR is. So the AMD graphics card support listed goes all the way back to the RX 590. Sorry, 580 owners. Apparently that's not supported. And NVIDIA graphics cards are supported starting with, it looks like the lowest one on here is a GTX 1070 and above. So GTX 16 series, all the 10 series cards above the 1070, 20 and 30 series cards. And, as we mentioned earlier, support for FSR 2.0 on Xbox. Starting with Deathloop, of course.
Running 1440p with FSR 2.0. That's kind of cool. That's like the new, most popular monitor being sold now.
Yes.
Finally, we've gotten off of 1080p.
Yeah.
They're just so common. It's so easy to get a good quality 1440 monitor for 1080
That runs at
prices
144 and above. Yeah.
Right,
For less
yeah.
than $300.
I picked up a Gigabyte 1440 165 hertz monitor for my wife when her monitor died at my hands about 2 weeks ago, and it was cheap and it's a great monitor.
What do you mean died at your hands? Did you have a rage moment?
No. When I removed the DisplayPort cable from it, when I was moving it, apparently I broke the socket, the DisplayPort socket in the motherboard.
Oh, nice.
or not in the motherboard, in the
In
Yeah,
the
you got to
actual
press the
display
button
for
to get the
Yo,
little
I know.
fangs out.
Oh, I know.
You don't have
Yeah.
to.
My wife did that
Should.
once, I think. It just wouldn't come out, and so I pulled really hard.
And more than I
See this
wanted
little
came out.
button? Yeah.
Sebastian's
if
fighting
you
the
tug-
same urge
if
I
you-
am right now.
If you tug hard enough, something will eventually come out. But that's another story. And we have to talk about the most exciting news of the week. I know GTC was going on, but Intel, and it's not even a graphics story. Intel ATX PSU specifications. The new PSU specifications are here. Reading from Intel's press release here, Intel has published the most significant update to industry power supply specifications since the initial ATX 2.0 specs in 2003. Now you can unlock the full power, emphasis on power here, and potential of next-gen hardware, and upcoming components built for technologies like PCIe Gen 5. I wonder what those upcoming components might be that would require massive overhaul to PCI Express power delivery. This new connector, by the way, the 12VH PWR, I don't know how that'll be pronounced, 12 volt high power, it provides up to 600 watts directly to any PCIe 5 add-in / graphics card.
Woof.
Now, the only question is going to be with upcoming products in the RTX 40 series, will they require one or two 12V HPWR connections? That's what I want to know. And is it the same connector? If it's a 12-pin connector, is that the same one that NVIDIA already had? So they were just ahead of the curve there.
Curve.
Or will
Maybe.
will those adapters support that much power delivery? Like, what 2 8-pins?
Well, for a certain amount of time, yes.
Yeah, two 8-pins
maybe
go
3 seconds.
into that 12-pin, so that might be the 12-pin that they're using. I don't know.
An 8-pin
Yeah,
is 300 watts,
375
correct?
is the max for 2 8-pins. So it's 150, 150, and 75 from the slot.
I thought 150 was from the 6-pin. That's from the 8-pin?
75 for a single pin. So for the 6-pin. 8-pin is 150.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Of course I'm right.
What are we going to do? Okay, are you saying, Josh, are you telling me,
Yeah.
if we get
Yeah.
a 600 watt graphics card and don't have a new power supply, I have to connect 4 8-pin connectors to some kind of octopus looking thing that will then go into the graphics card's 12-pin input?
Rip
Well,
power
what if
supply.
those will ship with the 4 8-pin to 1 12-pin adapter? Or if it's just going to be one of those things where Newegg will just bundle some ghastly
I have no idea.
power supply.
No
with every
idea.
graphics card purchase.
But you know what? I don't think consumer graphics cards is going to be hitting 600 anytime soon. 300 to
think so?
400? Yes. 600? You've got a lot of infrastructure you got to bake in before you're doing something like that. And people are going to be screaming. I've got a gaming PC, and it's pulling 1,000 watts from the wall. 1,000 watts continuously while gaming. That's, I mean, we were talking about how, running an overclock 6800 XT was hitting 550 watts at the wall with, a reasonable gaming CPU. That would reasonable saying like, a Ryzen 5 5600X. Of course, it's going to be more than that with the latest Intel processors, which can pull 250 watts at any one time that they feel like it. So, yeah, you're still looking at 600 watts, 650, with really the highest end with overclock graphics at the wall. And now you're looking at just graphics cards pulling 600. That's just I don't know how they're going to be able to pull that off with consumers and people saying, we need more energy efficient. I don't know. I could be totally wrong here. I think it's going to gradually may get close to that point, but I don't think off the bat we're going to see 600 watt TDP products. And that's just TDP, obviously, but I mean, it's still going to be pulling around that kind of power.
Well, once the server room gets used to it, maybe I could see it start to creep up. But even the server rooms are like, 700 watts on that H100. That's a little bit expensive over the course of a year.
Yeah. And I mean, they're going to be trying to stick these in 2U chassis.
Yeah.
And your power supplies are already limited as well for, how small those things are. I mean, those 1400 watt, gosh, what are they? How much are those? Are super dense, super expensive, and I think they're not 1400.
In the ballpark.
Less. Yeah, but I mean, you're still looking, 750 watts per.
There's an H100, and the rest of it is cooling.
Yeah,
in the 2U rack mount, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I can't wait. Al points out there is a limit to air cooling. Yes, that's going to be the other thing. Is this going to be the first generation of NVIDIA graphics cards that shipped with a standard liquid cooling solution? I mean, if they went that high, how are you going to cool that within?
The H100s, when they will hit, they will be in fully custom liquid cooled.
Oh God, yeah,
chassis. So it's just, it's inevitable. If you're going to be buying these monster machines, it's going to have to be liquid cooled. You can't have a 2U rack with two 600 watt TDP GPUs in there crunching away without that. It doesn't make sense. It won't work unless you've got 600 cubic feet of air going through them a minute,
Right, yeah. Put a couple of Delta fans on it. This could be the beginning of a 4-slot graphics card. This is where we are.
It's only 3.89. It's not technically 4.
Yeah, it'll look like two Noctua D15s on it.
Well,
just
we're already seeing motherboards that have a PCI power connector on the motherboard to provide additional power to your PCI Express slot.
Yeah.
Just so it can run above spec.
So it can run above spec, yes.
Great.
And that's the deal with like the Kingpin board and the Kingpin cards. The world records they're setting with those they're using the PCI slot to provide power above and beyond the 3 8-pins on the card. And I want to say they're doing 600 watts on those.
Some of them I think can peak close to that anyways. From a recall of a review from many, many years ago.
Who said? Somebody in YouTube said, it was Allegan. For consumers, I don't think you can sell water cooling cards only. May I introduce you to the AMD R9 Fury X, which was a liquid-cooled card. The only air-cooled variant of this was the smaller Nano.
Yeah, which you barely ever saw.
If you got a Fury X from any of the partners and from AMD directly, it had a 120 millimeter all-in-one liquid cooler connected to it.
And it was only $650.
Yeah.
Boy, that seems like a deal today, doesn't it?
$650.
I could buy a high-end graphics card and one of the fastest ones out there, and it's liquid cooled. It's only $650. Wow. I'm going back to 2018, where everything was green, fresh, crisp.
Let's pause again for a word from our second podcast sponsor this week.
All right, fellow software engineers and on-call operations staff. It's like 9 p.m. and you're finally unwinding from work. Your phone buzzes with an alert. Something's in an alarm. Your mind is already racing at what could be wrong. Server-side or front-end problem? Slow DB queries? Global outage? Or did I introduce a bug in the last deployment? Now the whole team is probably scrambling from tool to tool and messaging different people trying to find and fix the issue. That just won't happen if you get New Relic. New Relic combines 16 different monitor products that you'd normally buy separately so that software engineering teams can see across their entire stack in one place. More importantly, you can pinpoint issues down to the line of code, so you know exactly where the problem happened and begin to resolve it quickly. Dev and op teams from DoorDash, GitHub, and Epic Games, and more than 14,000 other companies are using New Relic to debug and improve their software right now. If you're a cloud-native startup or Fortune 500 company, you can set up New Relic in your environment in just a few minutes. The next 9 p.m. call is just waiting to happen. Get New Relic before it does, and you can get access to the whole New Relic platform with 100 gigabyte of data free forever. No credit card required. Just sign up at newrelic.com/PCPer. That's NEWRELIC.com/PCPer. Get more information at newrelic.com/PCPer.
Let's move to our review of the week, and it comes from Jeremy, our resident Canadian, who's been having some fun with a somewhat unique display technology, at least compared to what we're used to.
You mean indium gallium zinc oxide?
Is that what it stands for? I've never...
That's what IGZO stands for, and IGZO is good. I'm impressed. Because there's two really nice things about it. One is that IGZO you usually find on OLED. So you're paying a freaking arm and a leg to try and get a hold of it. And they don't really emphasize the gaming so much. Well, you might have seen that Monoprice has put one of these, one of their dark matter series. It is a 27-inch IGZO display. And well, I've seen a lot of people posting about it and saying, hey, for $350, getting a hold of an IGZO TFT is interesting. But as far as I know, no one's actually touched it before me. And I've frankly kind of enjoyed it. There's some environmental reasons to like it too. Like honestly, IGZO can be deposited via sintering and other ways that are much less nasty than your normal TFT. And because of the way it's designed, it can be on a thinner and more translucent substrate. So it doesn't need anywhere near as much power to reach the same amount of brightness as your equivalent TFT or VA or IPS panel. You get the benefits of TFT, so you get a 1 millisecond response rate, and this is a Samsung panel, which is actually rated for 160 hertz tops, but they've overclocked it to 180 hertz, and it's adaptive sync, so it does not care what graphics card you're using, if it's capable of doing it. Or sorry, it's a Sharp model, not a Sony.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't think that Samsung made these, but yeah.
No, it's one of them.
LQ270T1JG06.
Which you can find if you Google it. And it's a nice 10-bit that, as far as I can tell, is 10-bit. Hooked up to a dock, it can only manage 144 hertz and 8-bit. So it's usually when they're doing the 8+2, you can sort of fiddle with the lower ends and get it to try and pretend. But then again, I've got no real way of telling you exactly whether or not it is a absolute true 10-bit. But according to the manufacturer, it is.
Wait, why is it connected to a dock and not your...
because I'm using it for work.
Oh,
no,
that's a good idea.
They sent it to me to review. So I did game with it. But then the other thing was, I mean, hey, high refresh rate, nice pixel density, decent brightness, and it does work on spreadsheets very well. And because of the high refresh rate, it doesn't do that Excel thing that you're probably used to. They've obviously done a lot of cutting to be able to get this at a $350 price point. And I mean, the two major things are that the stand is a solid piece of metal that you screw together. It doesn't have any adjustments on it whatsoever. However, they do ship it with a Visa kit so that you can, instead of applying their metal stand to it, you can just put it on an arm mount. And to be honest, monitor arms are inexpensive and significantly better than even your high-end gaming monitor stands that they ship with nowadays. The other funky thing, and if you, on the bottom left there, Sebastian, the back of the monitor, if you click on that one, do you see there's a little tiny button off to the left there?
That's the menu button, huh?
That's the menu button as it is. And the power button as well. So you push it in, and the problem is that because of where it's situated, you so want to use your thumb on the front of the screen to pinch, and well, don't touch your screens. It's
Okay.
not good for them, but it didn't hurt. It was just an obvious, so you push it in, or it toggles four directionally, up, right, up, left, right, and down.
Oh, it's a joystick. Okay.
I kind of, and it's very loose, but when I first got it, and I'm like, okay, I despise this thing. Yes, I understand you've got to cut costs, and so a whole bunch of buttons on the bottom is not great, or a nice little joystick or anything. But as I got used to it, it's very nice. And the first time that you tap it, all it does is bring up on your bottom right hand side of the screen the actual shortcuts for the OSD. Yeah. And so, well, just there's not quite the menu, but just the shortcuts. So if you go right again, then you get your full menu. If you go down, you can toggle between the various modes that it's got: RGB, movie, eco-friendly, standard, yada yada. If you go off to the left, you then get to be able to flip through. I got to remember this one.
Wow, that's a serious menu for a
once you get in the menu, it's huge. Yeah. And then right is a little crosshair that you can immediately get rid of. But once you get into it, it's actually very easy to navigate with this little tiny joystick on the back of it. And I suddenly went from, I absolutely hate this thing to, you know what? That was actually a really decent idea of doing. And it's got all the settings.
Yeah, I've got a Samsung 27-inch that has that same thing where the little button in the back and you have up and down. It does the four corners. Well, not four corners, but the cross.
Yeah.
And it took a little getting used to, but once you did, it's like, this is so much easier than fiddling with four buttons tap, one's, get the menu, one's enter, one's up and down, and then you keep forgetting which one. Yeah. It's so much better than the four. It's not even funny.
Yeah, no. So I say, I started out hating it. I ended up saying, you know what, this is actually brilliant, and it could be a little bit more tactilely nice. I mean, honestly, for what I'm getting, this is a brilliant way to cut costs down compared to some others. And I mean, as far as the color gamuts went, it blew the Dell that I use all the time. It's 92% of NTSC, 94 of P3. There's been a few monitors released recently that don't even really do P3 at all. Like, they don't admit it exists. And 100 sRGB and 96 of Adobe RGB. And in theory, I could have actually gotten that a little bit better if I looked through the settings and stuff, because I did try, what happens if I recalibrate it set to the Adobe sRGB preset? Yeah, don't do that. It wasn't great. I then attempted, and audio listeners, you're going to get about as much out of this as the video, trying to get a macro picture of just the difference. So the top that you're looking at is the Dell. The bottom is the Monoprice. These were both calibrated with the exact same spider or data color spider. So they've both been set to the same brightness point. But because the IGZO is just able to do more smooth brightness, because it doesn't have to penetrate through the vertical alignment, it's just thin film transistor, it does look brighter. The pixels do look, a little bit less pronounced. Although, mind you, we're 32 inch versus 32 inch versus 27.
This color even still, fringing, though, I wonder what the actual subpixel pattern is for this. It does not look like RGB stripe based on this.
It's not, and I could not. I'm still going to fiddle around and see if I can figure out how to get it. But the A71 that I'm using is just not capturing pixel at that point. I was trying to figure out can I get one of those little jeweler's loops plus the camera or just a drop of water and see if I could get it. I'm still working on
video,
it.
You're not going to see it, but text clarity, it's hard to beat.
Yes,
RGB stripe IPS anyway, but
that's the thing. But honestly, unless you're actually up close, you're not really seeing it. You've got to be in there with a macro and that close. I like using Excel. If it was obvious, it would drive you absolutely and completely batty. It's not really there.
And the color depth and everything is just frickin' gorgeous. Like Red Dead Redemption, the difference in the high contrast areas where you're going from a dark shadow to a bright area. And of course, you've got to represent it on your own monitor, and so you lose a little bit of it. But it was quite noticeably different than the Dell. And I also tried to capture a little bit of the motion, which again, I mean, doing a monitor review is hard because how do I show you what a monitor looks like when you're looking at it on a totally different monitor?
Different monitor, yeah.
With, compression and the fact that I'm taking a picture so that it's a little different. And so this is like the worst of the worst possible test because Warhammer 3 is not optimized for anything at this point. But like if you go zoom through it and you pause it, you'll see a little bit of the text jumping, but it's never enough that you really catch it unless you're bouncing around pausing it. And I'd even scrolled through the actual review just so you could sort of see that it's keeping up. You're not getting the tearing that you would on some of the other machines, which is kind of nice. I'm certainly enjoying it. So overall, I mean, could you pick up a 1440p 27-inch monitor for less than this? Hell yeah. You get it with 165 hertz. You'd pay $200 to $250 for it. And I mean, if that's what you want, is super high refresh rates and, decent response rate and not spend a lot of money, then, I can't really push this Monoprice at you. If, on the other hand, you're looking at mixed usage between I want good color representation, when I play a game, I actually do stop and smell the daisies and take a look around, and I do a bit of actual work on it, and I just like a really high-end display that doesn't really bug your eyes or doesn't do anything like it's just, yeah, it's sort of hard to say that, overall I would say, yeah, this thing is bloody well worth an extra $100 on top of a normal 27-inch. It's not going to be if all you're doing is looking for the fastest monitor on the planet. It's because the difference between 165 and 180, you're not going to really notice. The 1 millisecond can be done on just about any other type of display. But if you are looking for a little bit more color, and if you spend a stupid amount of time staring at a monitor while you're working, yeah, Monoprice kind of did a good thing here, and I hope that this is the tip of the iceberg, and that while they're the first to market, that we're going to start seeing a lot more of these out there.
Well, Jeremy, you have you've done it because you are one of the first to look at one of these things. The questions have been pouring in while you were talking. What is the DisplayPort revision? Is it possible that color banding was possibly caused by compression because it wasn't 444? Is it using 422?
Yes.
What's contrast compared to like a VA panel? And I'm sure it's better. I have had IGZO in-house before in a Dell laptop, and it was nearly OLED type of contrast. Not quite infinite contrast, but they're very, very contrasty panels.
Yeah, no, and it's clean too. Like you're not getting blurs on the edge of a dark to white to light spot. It's actually very clean.
Yeah,
which is very nice. It's
viewing angle is better than VA. Where VA,
yeah,
it's like 20 degrees until you start to have color.
But 178. They claim 178. I would say not quite that much before you're getting a color shift, but getting off 90, 100 degrees, not a problem. It's DisplayPort 1.4A and HDMI 2.0. It will also do USB-C. There's a toggle to enable USB-C to be an input. If you don't, it can be used as a charging port.
I see that it says it's adaptive sync capable. Does it? I assume that's FreeSync. Does your NVIDIA card recognize it and let you set G-Sync?
Yeah, so the 1080 had no problems with it. The 6800 had no problems with it. Nice. The Dell D6000 will push it to 144 hertz, although I don't think it's very adaptive sync capable. But yeah, I didn't mind either of my machines. I was happy with the GTX 1080 and with the RX 6800. And it's a matte finish for anyone that's curious. It's an interesting matte finish because you can sort of see my reflection in the key picture there.
but you can also definitely see that it's not a shiny reflection. It's
Not glossy.
no, it's not glassy. I'm using a VA panel normally. It's better. The IGZO gives me a better contrast on it. And I wish that I'd kind of gotten the Data Color Elite so that I could measure brightness and contrast levels. I don't have it, so can't test it right now.
I think with their software, you can't do that stuff. But if you use, and I'm forgetting already, it's been so long since I've used this. There's an open software alternative that can make use of the Data Color Spider sensor.
Oh.
'Cause the difference between those is the software. The Spider
Yes.
is there's only one unit, but it's bundled with a license key to different levels of software that unlock more functionality from the meter.
Yeah, so back in the day, I just asked for the Pro because I didn't have anything that was worth testing with the Elite.
We're not into the after show yet, but things have already changed drastically. Obviously, we've switched to a 5-up display. Brett is here now in unfamiliar surroundings.
Yeah.
But you know what? Your lighting and picture quality
Pretty dang
might be
good.
better than ever.
He's
Weird,
in
huh?
his Apple reindoctrination
Throw it
suite.
together.
Once a year, he has to go there.
For me and just went with it.
Yeah.
Wait, you put the macrame in?
He
Yeah.
said something about I unpacked my Mac display. Is that what he said? I've got my Mac. That couldn't
Macrame.
be because a Mac display, the camera quality would be atrocious.
This is actually a laptop.
Is it an Apple laptop?
You couldn't bring a headset?
Actually, I do have one.
But the room, it gives him that sort of robust sound that you're not going to get from a little headset.
Nice
mic.
timber.
What part of the show are we in? Where we make fun of the Mac guy yet? Are we at that part? I was hoping we would be at that part. Like a
We
time
have
as well.
no, because I wasn't sure if you were going to be joining us or not. We did not talk about Apple at all. Since Brett is here, obviously we have to talk about Apple stuff. But I
don't have the show
display.
notes.
The display. We're done. I mean, we're just
Okay.
to the picks of the week part, but we haven't done that yet. But the display is an iPad, or basically an iPhone 11, because it's an A13.
I think it's an A15 actually, but yeah.
I thought it was an A13.
I think it's an A15, but yeah, look it up. But it definitely has the guts inside of it to be a lot more than it is. It should be a little bit more iPad-like, but it's actually a little bit dismal, unfortunately.
It's if we look at The Verge, it has
Not
an
The
iPhone 11
Verge.
caliber processor. That would be the A13.
Okay.
So imagine, what if this was the Apple Silicon Mac prototype, and they're like, this thing sucks. This A13 Bionic is not a desktop class processor, regardless of whatever Geekbench says.
Oh, please. All they do is charge more for it and say that you're doing it wrong.
And it has 64 gigs of internal memory, of which they're only using 2, apparently. But it's just a giant iPad without the touchscreen. What is this? Why would you put 64 gigs of storage and then only enable 2?
Seems
Why
like
is it in there at all? Why does it need an A11?
Future expansion.
Yeah. Once they figure out that addressing problem, it'll be there.
Right, it's the A11 is needed to do processing on the miserable camera, which I saw somebody in our Discord posted a close up of the camera element earlier, and it's identical to an iPhone 11's camera.
Are those super pipes or just really wacky cable
I
management?
think there's just
Cables.
These are cables. Yeah, they've disconnected something here. Oh, the panel. This is the camera.
Yes.
Power supply.
There are
the
coils.
display logic, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you gotta have chokes.
Yeah. They're serious, too.
And these are I'm assuming the speakers, and then probably all of this is some like speaker chamber to make the incredible bass response from such a thin chassis.
Well, I mean, it's got enough local memory in it. You could probably install Doom directly on the monitor and play it.
Oh, on the on this display.
retro-
Except the display is more expensive than just buying an iMac. And depending on what you're plugging that display into, you're probably better off just getting the M1 iMac. Because the display is like $1,500,
With or without the wheels.
Crazy.
We could And then
Well, you know what
15,
P.T. Barnum said.
There's a sucker born every minute.
Yep.
I think the best thing that could happen to that display if somebody jailbreaks it and does something useful with it.
yeah, would you want to use a computer that was powered by an A13?
No, it's way too much money. It should, if it would cost a lot less, that might be an interesting hacking platform. But
Yeah, if it was $499, they're like, oh, okay, yeah,
Sure,
and actually
yeah.
you can get it. You can turn it into a computer for $499.
how much is the equivalent 5K monitor, the roughly equivalent one from LG, right?
Oh, the Ultra.
So GTC 5K monitor.
Yeah,
Yes,
because it's
I
the same
do.
panel. It's that LG panel.
It's very close. About the only difference is there's a lighting
Okay,
nits
Brett.
difference.
Every
It's so-
week, every
I know.
week, Brett's like, well, it's close. It's close. Okay,
He's
they
nitpicking.
make one.
He's
panel.
funny.
They make one 5K panel at Lucky Gold Star,
Yeah, it is Lucky Gold Star.
and whether you have added quantum dots or just have a straight LED backlight or however you want to implement the panel, I think that's what changes. But I think the actual panel is the same. Correct.
All right, how much does it cost?
But
How much does the panel
let's see.
cost?
LG Ultra Fine 5K. I'm googling.
Oh, it's
Everybody
probably
likes
like
it. Googling
12,
live.
$14.
Let's go to LG's website for the official MSRP. It's $12.99. Now they don't really make this one
Difference.
anymore, though. I don't think you can buy it.
It's actually the same price as the Mac, or as the not a Mac panel.
They're missing a 35-cent display driver, so yeah, they can't ship them. And sadly, that's possibly correct.
I think the power plug is removable on the LG.
Now, if we look at Apple displays, the new Studio display starts at $1,600
Ooh,
for a 27-inch
I thought
5K.
it was 13, but
And I have to say, from firsthand
But it's got
experience,
outstanding camera and audio.
yeah, outstanding camera. For $12.99,
7
get
vibrant
yourself
colors.
an entire damn computer with a 4.5K display. And the displays on these look fantastic. So even if this is if there was some way to make this just a monitor, it is a beautiful monitor.
Yeah, Apple tried that. They were ugly as hell.
Where's this connection? Okay, on the back, there is an actual input for
Lightning.
it's hard to see. It's a little round port there. It's magnetic. There's probably something. There it is.
Why are they trying to hide it?
A power connector that easily attaches via magnets. But they could have done this with their display. Why didn't they?
Good
It doesn't make
question.
any sense. This display makes no sense as a product. It's a weird mishmash of technologies. It doesn't make any sense. The fact it doesn't have a magnetic power. Your iMac has the magnetic connector, and the thing is like 11 millimeters thick. The display, I think, is thicker than this and has
So you're saying it's
permanently
classic
attached-
Cupertino.
Yeah, it's classic. It's like classic Apple when Steve Jobs wasn't there, where it was like a mess.
Yeah.
And there were way too many products and way too many SKUs, and
Too many SKUs. Yeah, their stuff was too close together, and price and performance
A little too much
differentiation
poison.
was not good.
And Tim Cook is the master of like, what do we have a lot of? Well, let's
Yeah,
make this
really.
iPhone SE out of like an iPhone 6 body and like an iPhone 7 screen and like the
So many of these 5K panels. So many of these 5K panels left. What are we gonna do with
Right.
them?
Well, because internally we decided that people don't need 27-inch Intel iMacs anymore. We've got all these 5K panels laying around.
true.
Picks of the week. And Josh, please take it away.
These
I'm trying to
eyes.
think. What did I do? Yeah, spinning rust is not dead, and it'll never die, just because the density is so great. And now you can get a pretty reasonable 16 terabyte spinning rust hard drive for $290. It's got 512 megs of cache. That's just ludicrous. That's so much density. No escaping. That's for me. No, that's Destiny. Anyway. This is, you want a big data drive? You want to have two of them and do them in
Yes.
mirror?
Two at the same time. It's everybody's dream.
Everybody.
Zero.
Yeah. You should do Death Wish Rage on these and just,
Oh,
you know,
that would
watch
be
the catastrophe.
32 terabytes. That's quick.
32 terabytes of fast
16,
drive.
16.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. That's Go ahead.
I was gonna say last week I picked a $300 18 terabyte, but it was external, but you could always harvest it. But this has enterprise features.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's written right on it.
It says
That's what it says.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know, Shiba makes pretty decent drive. I've had good luck with them.
Excellent. All right, who is next?
Yes.
Jeremy.
But
Your pick of the week.
oh yeah. So Humble's doing a Stand with Ukraine bundle that is pretty damn good. I mean, Back for Blood, which I never picked up, Metro Exodus, which I did, sadly. Finally get This War of Mine, The Long Dark. Give away my copy of Endless Space 2. Kerbal Space Program. Expeditions Vikings looks interesting. But it goes beyond that. Like, there's Pathfinder rule books. Warhammer Fantasy, the old second edition one. Army of Darkness comics. 3D printing stuff. A shampoo, a photo optimizer. There's
There's a lot of stuff in here.
Large.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Too.
Hey, System Shock Enhanced Edition. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Wow.
Yes, if you don't have it.
I lost a lot of hours on
the humanitarian
Slay
relief in Ukraine, and I mean the average is $50 or so. Well, $56.
That's a ton Canadian. Of content that I will never get and go through.
You just need to do 40 or more. It looks like for this one to get all the stuff.
It's nuts.
Yeah, Canadian, it's like 56 or so. Okay. But like my brother's got a 3D printer, so off went all of the 3D printing stuff to it. And he replied to me saying, how can you give me a printout of a thatched hut if I don't have Trogdor? So yeah, I went on the Thingiverse and here's your Trogdor.
Beautiful. All right. Kent.
Oh, it has yaks too, for some reason. I don't know.
I do not. So, as I was going to be filling in for Brett tonight, I decided to take one of his favorite picks for the week and go with an OLED TV that's on sale. These are at Newegg. It's an LG. It's a last gen, I believe, 65-inch, retailed for $2,700. It's on sale for $1,746, plus $175 Visa gift card and a $100 Fanatics gift card. So,
I applaud your pick.
Is it IGZO?
It's better. It's
organic.
It's organic.
It's organic.
Yeah, grass-fed, organic television. My pick this week is an update to a story we talked about last week, which was the mini Amiga 500, which isn't called the Amiga 500, and they don't even have the license to say Amiga. It's the A500 Mini. But there was the first YouTuber who had their hands on it. They kind of teased it, but wouldn't actually show the internals. Apparently, they'd been told not to. So 8-Bit Guy got his hands on one. And in his review, he actually does take it apart, show the internals. So if you look at that as his current video on his channel, the 8-Bit Guy on YouTube. But if I fast forward to that part of the review, and I will say the finished version looks great. If you watch his video,
it does.
the one we saw before was just a gray
You can
plastic.
touch that one.
It looks like it's even aged plastic. It's this off-white, ever so slightly yellowed. Right down every little line, every color seems authentic, except of course of the logo, because they had to use their own logo, which goes into the logo in depth because they couldn't use this one. Anyway, the inside of this unit, where is it? Oh, and the mouse. The mouse is too small.
Oh wow.
The original mouse is on the right. The new one on the left.
That is much smaller.
Yeah. So he said the mouse feels great, but it is noticeably smaller than the original.
Just a wee bit.
The controller felt good though. He said it has good like heft to it. Isn't creaky. Nice buttons. So that was good. But essentially, this thing is like a Raspberry Pi. And
That's a nice cap.
yeah, there's a chip under a heatsink that he didn't remove, and then he pointed out that there's some caps that aren't populated. And there's a button here and like a fan header that wasn't used and all sorts of things. So I'm not sure what the original purpose of this little board was, but it looks like there's enough
cute
room.
little daughter board.
There's enough room inside of this case. It looks like you could do something clever with it, like that slot. Let me go back a few seconds here. If you see what I'm saying, like if you look down here,
Yeah.
there's just a blank there, but you could remove that and you could put an SD card reader right in here. I don't know why they didn't do that. It seems like they could have even included some kind of a cool looking like floppy-esque micro SD to floppy adapter. I don't know.
With all the
And it's
space in there,
$140.
They could have made the keyboard functional.
Well, yeah,
It wouldn't be a
it's
great
too small.
typing experience, but
No.
No.
Well, this company made the C64 Mini and then they made the Maxi. So one would, and they said that if this sells, depending on how this sells, they will make a Maxi version of it.
Yep.
At that point, it would have a working keyboard, but I don't know. I just
With cherry switches just because NRGBs and just totally ruin the experience.
anyway. Check out that video from the 8-bit guy if you want to learn more about the A500 and actually look at the teardown. And he goes into depth on actually like loading and playing the games, which is what this is all about. So if you just want something to play Amiga games on your TV and you're willing to pay $140 for it, though it is not available yet, it's being seeded to select reviewers, but it will not be on sale until like April, May in the US, it sounds like. Anyway, Brett, I know that you're just joining us kind of impromptu here on the road, but do you have any kind of pick to add?
I would say definitely come to Seattle and experience the brew pubs in the area. People should try
okay.
that. That would be my pick today. Yeah, having just
how
recently
it's-
experienced a couple of them.
It's early there yet, so you go right back to the.
Yeah, I mean, I could finish up the podcast here and run back out again because it's only 20 of 9.
You probably should.
All right, well, that was our show this evening. Thanks everybody for listening, watching, however you consume it. That's your personal preference, and we will probably come back next week and do this again in some form with some, group of people again. So until then, goodbye.